shipments cross the country every day. Everything from furniture to fast food to fuel. All of them, each and every load, require the professional driver to exercise care and to function at the top of his or her ability. It's a serious job. And if you haul hazardous materials, the seriousness of your job is magnified many times over. The potential for harm when hauling hazardous materials, or hazmat, is greater than with any other commodity. Not only is your life, as well as the lives of others, in danger, but even without injuries or deaths, the final cost of a hazmat incident can run into the millions.
When you haul hazmats, you got to be serious about what you're doing because of the dangers involved with it and the damage that it can do to other people.
Make sure that you understand that it is hazardous materials, but in the process of doing that, there's some rules that we follow, and we follow them appropriately if we can haul it as safely as we do any other type of freight.
A hazardous material is defined by the Department of Transportation, the DOT, as any substance that poses an unreasonable risk to health, safety, and property when it's transported in commerce. As a driver in charge of a vehicle containing hazmat, you are responsible for following the procedures prescribed in the hazmat regulations, as well as having any required endorsements on your CDL. The penalties for non-compliance can be steep, both for you and your carrier. That's why this training is important.
And without that training, the driver may be in the dark as far as what they're doing. A driver that's not aware of those basic safety regulations is putting both himself and the carrier public at risk.
Hazardous materials are categorized into 9 hazard classes, most of which are further broken down into divisions. Divisions provide more detail about the material's hazards. For example, Class 2, gases, has 3 divisions. 2.1 is flammable gas, 2.2 is non-flammable compressed gas, and 2.3 is poison gas. Depending on the hazard class, some materials are further divided into packing groups. Group 1 indicates great danger, Group 2, medium danger, and Group 3, minor danger. Some hazard classes do not have packing groups. These include Class 2, gases, Class 7, radioactive, some Class 9, miscellaneous hazardous materials, and some Division 6.2, etiological agents. In addition to showing the level of danger involved, the packing group is used to determine what type of packaging is required. All of this information, hazard class, division, and packing group, can be found in the Hazardous Materials Table located in Section 172.101 of the Hazardous Materials Regulations, or HMR. Before it may be transported, every hazardous material must be described with a proper shipping name. The Hazardous Materials, or hazmat table, is a list of all the proper shipping names which can be used to describe materials transported in the U.S. and provides important information and guidelines on how they must be shipped. The hazmat table also lists the hazard class or division, UN or NA identification number, the packing group, required labels, and special provisions that correspond with each proper shipping name. Other columns of the table provide HMR section references for packaging information and maximum quantities for shipping by air and rail. 2 important appendices used with the hazmat table are Appendix A and Appendix B. Appendix A lists materials that present an environmental hazard when shipped in certain quantities. These are referred to as hazardous substances and have reportable quantities, or RQs. Materials that could harm the marine environment when transported by ship are listed in Appendix B and are referred to as marine pollutants. As a driver, you may have little, if any, contact with the hazmat table, but most of the key information on your shipping papers and packages is obtained from it. Proper documentation of hazardous materials is critical. In order for a hazardous material to be safely transported, it must be completely and properly described on the shipping papers, if shipping papers are required. For most shipments, properly prepared shipping papers include the basic description of the hazardous material. The items that make up the basic description must appear in this order: proper shipping name, hazard class or division, ID number, and packing group. This information can be found in columns 2 through 5 of the hazmat table. Usually, the total quantity of the hazardous material is required on the shipping paper as well. If a load consists of both hazardous and non-hazardous materials, the hazardous materials must stand out on the shipping paper. The shipper may do this by either listing the hazardous materials first, by listing them in contrasting color, or by inserting an X, or if appropriate, RQ in the column designated HM for hazardous materials. In most cases, shipping papers must also contain the shipper's certification. This simply states that the shipment is properly classed, packed, marked, labeled, and placarded, and is in proper condition for transportation. An emergency response phone number must be listed on the shipping papers as well for most hazardous materials. While it's the shipper's responsibility to prepare the shipping papers, drivers and everyone else who will handle the hazardous materials shipment must know how to read them. One area you should pay particular attention to is the emergency response information requirements. At a minimum, you should receive a description of the hazardous material, the immediate health hazards, fire or explosion risks, immediate precautions to take in the event of an incident, how to handle a fire, how to handle a spill or leak, and preliminary first aid measures. The shipper may list this information on the shipping papers, or it may be provided to you via the Emergency Response Guidebook, or by attaching a Material Safety Data Sheet, or MSDS, that contains all the required information. Shipping papers must be readily available at all times in case of an emergency or roadside inspection. This means they must be visible and within reach while you're restrained by your seatbelt. When you're out of the cab, display shipping papers in a door pouch or lay them on the driver's seat.